There lived in the land of Uz a man named Job, a good man, a man who feared God and stayed away from evil. He had a large family of 7 sons and 3 daughters and was immensely wealthy. For he owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 teams of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and employed many servants. He was, in fact, the richest cattleman in that entire area. Every year when Job's sons had birthdays, they invited their brothers and sisters to their homes for a celebration. On these occasions, they would eat and drink with great merriment. When these birthday parties ended, and sometimes they lasted several days, Job would summon his children to him and sanctify them, getting up early in the morning and offering a burnt offering for each of them. For Job said, "Perhaps my sons have sinned and turned away from God in their hearts." This was Job's regular practice. One day as the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, Satan, the accuser, came with them. "Where have you come from?" the Lord asked Satan. And Satan replied, "From earth, where I've been watching everything that's going on." Then the Lord asked Satan, "Have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth, a good man who fears God and will have nothing to do with evil." "Why shouldn't he, when you pay him so well?" Satan scoffed. "You've always protected him and his home and his property from all harm. You've prospered everything he does. Look how rich he is. No wonder he worships you. But just take away his wealth and we'll see him curse you to your face." And the Lord replied to Satan, "You may do anything you like with his wealth, but don't harm him physically." So Satan went away, and sure enough, not long afterwards, when Job's sons and daughters were dining at the oldest brother's house, tragedy struck. A messenger rushed to Job's home with the news. "Your oxen were plowing with the donkeys feeding beside them, when the Sabaeans raided us, drove away the animals, and killed all the farmhands except me. I'm the only one left." While this messenger was still speaking, another arrived with more bad news. "The fire of God has fallen from heaven and burned up your sheep and all the herdsmen, and I alone have escaped to tell you." Before this man finished, still another messenger rushed in. "3 bands of Chaldeans have driven off your camels and killed your servants. I alone have escaped to tell you." As he was still speaking, another arrived to say, "Your sons and daughters were feasting in their oldest brother's home when suddenly a mighty wind swept in from the desert and engulfed the house so that the roof fell in on them, and all are dead, and I alone am escaped to tell you." Then Job stood up and tore his robe in grief and fell down upon the ground before God. "I came naked from my mother's womb," he said, "and I shall have nothing when I die. The Lord gave me everything I had, and they were his to take away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." In all of this, Job did not sin or revile God. Job chapter 2, verse 1. Now the angels came again to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan was with them. "Where have you come from?" the Lord asked Satan. "From earth, where I've been watching everything that's going on," Satan replied. "Well, have you noticed my servant Job?" Again. The Lord asked. "He is the finest man in all the earth, a good man who fears God and turns away from all evil. And he has kept his faith in me, despite the fact that you persuaded me to let you harm him without any cause." "Skin for skin," Satan replied. "A man will give anything to save his life. Touch his body with sickness, and he will curse you to your face." "Do with him as you please," the Lord replied, "only spare his life." So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and struck Job with a terrible case of boils from head to foot. Then Job took a broken piece of pottery to scrape himself and sat among the ashes. His wife said to him, "Are you still trying to be godly when God has done all this to you? Curse him and die." But he replied, "You talk like some heathen woman. What? Shall we receive only pleasant things from the hand of God and never anything unpleasant?" So in all this, Job said nothing wrong. When 3 of Job's friends heard of all the tragedy that had befallen him, they got in touch with each other and traveled from their homes to comfort and console him. Their names were Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Nahamathite. Job was so changed that they could scarcely recognize him. Wailing loudly in despair, they tore their robes and threw dust in the air and put earth on their heads to demonstrate their sorrow. When they sat on the ground with him silently for 7 days and nights, no one speaking a word, for they saw that his suffering was too great for words. Job chapter 3. At last Job spoke and cursed the day of his birth. "Let the day of my birth be cursed," he said, "in the night when I was conceived. Let that day be forever forgotten. Let it be lost even to God, shrouded in eternal darkness. Yes, let the darkness claim it for its own, and may a black cloud overshadow it. May it be blotted off the calendar, never again to be counted among the days of the month of that year. Let that night be bleak and joyless. Let those who are experts at cursing curse it. Let the stars of the night disappear. Let it long for light, but never see it. Never see the morning light. Curse it for its failure to shut my mother's womb, for letting me be born to come into all this trouble. Why didn't I die at birth? Why did the midwife let me live? Why did she nurse me at her breast? For if only I had died at birth, then I would be quiet now, asleep and at rest, along with prime ministers and kings with all their pomp and wealthy princes whose castles are full of rich treasures. Oh, to have been stillborn, to have never breathed or seen the light. For there in death the wicked cease from troubling, and there the weary are at rest. There even prisoners are at ease, with no brutal jailer to curse them. Both rich and poor alike are there, and the slave is free at last from his master. Oh, why would the light and life be given to those in misery and bitterness, who long for death and it won't come, who search for death as others search for food or money? What blessed relief when at last they die. Why is a man allowed to be born if God is only going to give him a hopeless life of uselessness and frustration? I cannot eat for sighing. My groans pour out like water. What I always feared has happened to me. I was not fat and lazy, yet trouble struck me down. The book of Job, chapter 4, verse 1. A reply to Job from Eliphaz the Temanite. Will you let me say a word? For who could keep speaking out? In the past, you have told many a troubled soul to trust in God and encouraged those who are weak or falling, or lie crushed upon the ground or tempted to despair. But now when trouble strikes, you faint and are broken. At such a time as this, should not trust in God still be your confidence? Shouldn't you believe that God will care for those who are good? Stop and think. Have you ever known a truly good and innocent person who was punished? Experience teaches that it is those who sow sin and trouble who harvest the same. They die beneath the hand of God. Though they are fierce as young lions, they shall be broken and destroyed. Like aged, helpless lions shall they starve, and all their children shall be scattered. This truth was given me in secret, as though whispered in my ear. It came in a nighttime vision as others slept. Suddenly fear gripped me. I trembled and shook with terror. As a spirit passed before my face, my hair stood up on end. I felt the spirit's presence, but couldn't see it standing there. Then out of the dreadful silence came this voice. Is mere man more than just God, more pure than his creator? If God cannot trust his own messengers, for even angels make mistakes, how much less men made of dust who are crushed to death as easily as moths? They are alive in the morning, but by the evening they are dead, gone forever with hardly a thought from anyone. The candle of life is snuffed out. They die, and no one cares. Wow, that's terrible. Job 5. They cry for help, but no one listens. They turn to their gods, but none gives them aid. They die in helpless frustration, overcome by their own anger. Those who turn from God may be successful for a moment, but then comes sudden disaster. Their children are cheated with no one to defend them. Their harvests are stolen, and their wealth lakes, the first of many others, not themselves. Misery comes upon them to punish them for sowing seeds of sin. Mankind heads for sin and misery as predictably as flames shoot upward from a fire. My advice to you is this. Go to God and confess your sins to him, for he does wonderful miracles, marvels without number. He sends the rain upon the earth to water the fields and gives prosperity to the poor and humble and takes sufferers to safety. He frustrates the plans of crafty men. They are caught in their own traps. He thwarts their schemes. They grope like blind men in the daylight. They see no better in the daytime than at night. God saves the fatherless and the poor from the grasp of these oppressors. And so at last the poor have hope, and the fangs of the wicked are broken. How enviable the man whom God corrects. Oh, do not despise the chastening of the Lord when you sin, for though he wounds, he binds and heals again. He will deliver you again and again so that no evil can touch you. He will keep you from death and famine and from the power of the sword in the time of war. You will be safe from slander. No need to fear the future. You will laugh at war and famine. Wild animals will leave you alone. Dangerous animals will be at peace with you. You need not worry about your home while you are gone. Nothing will be stolen from your barns. Your sons shall become important men. Your descendants shall be as numerous as grass. You shall live a long, good life. Like standing grain, you will not be harvested until it's time. I have found from experience that all of this is true. For your own good, listen to my counsel. Job chapter 6, Job's reply. Oh, that my sadness and troubles were weighed, for they are heavier than the sand of 1,000 seashores. That is why I spoke so rashly. For the Lord has struck me down with arrows. He has sent his poisoned arrows deep within my heart. All God's terrors are arrayed against me. When wild donkeys bray, it is because their grass is gone. Oxen do not low when they have food. A man complains when there is no salt in his food. And how tasteless is the uncooked white of an egg. My appetite is gone when I look at it. I gag at the thought of eating it. Oh, that God would grant the thing that I long for the most, to die beneath his hand and be freed from his painful grip. This at last gives me comfort despite all the pain, that I have not denied the words of the holy God. Oh, why does my strength sustain me? How can I be patient till I die? Am I unfeeling like stone? Is my flesh made of brass? For I'm utterly hopeless without any hope. One should be kind to a fainting friend, but you have accused me without the slightest fear of God. My brother, you have proved as unreliable as a brook. It floods when there is ice and snow, but in hot weather it disappears. The caravans turn aside to be refreshed, but there's nothing there to drink, and so they perish. When caravans from Tema and from Sheba stop for water there, their hopes are dashed. And so my hopes in you are dashed. You turn away from me in terror and refuse to help. But why? Have I ever asked you for one slightest thing? Have I begged you for a present? Have I ever asked you for help? All I want is a reasonable answer. Then I will keep quiet. Tell me what I've done wrong. It is wonderful to speak the truth, but your criticisms are not based on fact. Are you going to condemn me just because I impulsively cried out in desperation? That would be like injuring a helpless orphan or selling a friend. Look at me. Would I lie to your face? Stop assuming my guilt, for I'm righteous. Don't be so unjust. Don't I know the difference between right and wrong? Would I not admit it if I had sinned? Job chapter 7. How mankind must struggle. A man's life is long and hard like that of a slave. How he longs for the day to end. How he grinds to the end of the week and his wages. And so to me, to have also been allotted months of frustration, these long and weary nights. When I go to bed, I think, oh, that it were morning, and then I toss till dawn. My skin is filled with worms and blackness. My flesh breaks open, full of pus. My life drags by day after hopeless day. My life is but a breath, and nothing good is left. You see me now, but not for so long. Soon you'll look upon me dead, as a cloud disperses and vanishes. So those who die shall go away forever, gone forever from their family and their home, never to be seen again. Oh, let me express my anguish. Let me be free to speak out of the bitterness of my soul. Oh, God, am I some monster that you never leave me alone? Even when I try to forget my misery and sleep, you terrify me with nightmares. I would rather die of strangulation than go on and on like this. I hate my life. Oh, leave me alone for these few remaining days. What is mere man that you should spend your time persecuting him? Must you be his inquisitor every morning and test him every moment of the day? Why won't you leave me alone, even long enough to spit? Has my sin harmed you, O God, watcher of mankind? Why have you made me your target and made my life so heavy of a burden to me? Why not just pardon my sin and take it all away? For all too soon I'll die down in the dust and die, and when you look for me, I shall be gone. Job chapter 8, verse 1. Bildad the Shuhite replies to Job, how long will you go on like this, Job, blowing words around like wind? Does God twist justice? If your children sinned against him and he punished them and you begged Almighty God for them, if you were pure and good, he would hear your prayer and answer you and bless you with a happy home. And though you started with little, you would end with much. Read the history books and see. For we were born but yesterday and know so little. Our days here on earth are as a transient as shadows. But the wisdom of the past will teach you. The experience of others will speak to you, reminding you that those who forget God have no hope. They are like rushes without mire to grow in, or grass without water to keep it alive. Suddenly it begins to wither even before it is cut. A man without God is trusting in a spider's web. Everything he counts on will collapse. If he counts on his home for security, it won't last. At dawn, he seems so strong and viral like a green plant, but his branches spread across the garden. His roots are in the stream down among the stones, but when he disappears, he isn't even missed. That is all he can look forward to, and others spring up from the earth to replace him. But look, God will not cast away a good man, nor prosper evildoers. He will yet fill your mouth with laughter and your lips with shouts of joy. Those who hate you shall be clothed with shame, and the wicked destroyed. Job chapter 9, Job's reply. Yes, I know all that. You're not telling me anything new. But how can a man be truly good in the eyes of God? If God decides to argue with him, can a man answer even one question of 1,000 he asks? For God is so wise and so mighty, who has ever opposed him successfully? Suddenly he moves the mountains, overturning them in anger. He shakes the earth to its foundations. The sun won't rise. The stars won't shine if he commands it so. Only he has stretched the heavens out and stalked along the seas. He made the Bear, Orion, and Pleiades, and the constellations of the southern zodiac. He does incredible miracles, too many to count. He passes by invisible. He moves along, but I don't see him go. When he sends death to snatch a man away, who can stop him? Who dares ask him, what are you doing? God does not abate his anger. The pride of man collapses before him. And who am I that I should try to argue with Almighty God or even reason with him? Even if I were sinless, I wouldn't say a word. I would only plead for mercy. And even if my prayers were answered, I could scarcely believe that he had heard my cry. For he is the one who destroys and multiplies my wounds without a cause. He will not let me breathe, but fills me with bitter sorrows. He alone is strong and just. But am I righteous? My own mouth says no. Even if I were perfect, God would prove me wicked. And even if I'm utterly innocent, I dare not think of it. I despise what I am. Innocent or evil, it is all the same to him. He destroys both kinds. He will laugh when calamity crushes the innocent. The whole earth is in the hands of the wicked. God blinds the eyes of the judges and lets them be unfair. If not he, then who? My life passes swiftly away, filled with tragedy. My years disappear like swift ships, like the eagle that swoops upon its prey. If I decided to forget my complaints against God to my end sadness and be cheerful, then he would pour even greater sorrows upon me. For I know that you will not hold me innocent, O God, but will condemn me. So what's the use of trying? Even if I were to wash myself with the purest water and cleanse my hands with lye and make them utterly clean, even so you would plunge me into the ditch in mud, and even my clothing would be less filthy than you consider me to be. And I cannot defend myself, for you are no mere man as I am. If you were, then we could discuss it fairly. But there's no umpire between you, no middleman, no mediator to bring us together. Oh, let him stop beating me so that I need no longer live in terror of his punishment. Then I could speak without fear to him and tell him boldly that I am not guilty. Job chapter 10. I am weary of living. Let me complain freely. I will speak in my sorrow and bitterness. I will say to God, don't just condemn me. Tell me why you're doing it. Does it really seem right to you to oppress and despise me, a man you have made, and to send joy and prosperity to the wicked? Are you unjust like men? Is your life so short that you must hound me for sins you know fully well I've not committed? Is it because you know no one can save me from your hand? You have made me, and yet you destroy me. Oh, please remember that I'm made of dust. You will change me back again to dust so soon? You've already poured me from bottle to bottle like milk and curdled me like cheese. You gave me skin and flesh and knit together bones and sinews. You gave me life and were so kind and loving to me, and I was preserved by your care. Yet all the time, your real motive in making me was to destroy me if I sinned and to refuse to forgive my iniquity. Just the slightest wickedness and I'm done for. And if I'm good, that doesn't count. I'm filled with frustration. If I start to get up off the ground, you leap upon me like a lion and quickly finish me off. And again, you witness against me and pour out an ever-increasing volume of wrath upon me and bring fresh armies against me. Why then did you even let me be born? Why didn't you let me die at birth? Then I would have been spared this miserable existence. I would have gone directly from the womb to the grave. Can't you see how little time I have left? Oh, leave me alone that I may have a little moment of comfort before I leave for the land of darkness and the shadow of death, never to return. A land as dark as midnight, a land of the shadow of death where only confusion reigns and where the brightest light is as dark as midnight. Job chapter 11, verse 1. Zophar the Naamathite replies to Job, shouldn't someone stem this torrent of words? Is a man proved right by all this talk? Should I remain silent while you boast, when you mock God? Shouldn't someone make you ashamed? You claim you are pure in the eyes of God. Oh, that God would speak and tell you what he thinks. Oh, that he would make you truly see yourself, for he knows everything you've done. Listen, God is doubtless punishing you far less than what you deserve. Do you know the mind and purposes of God? Will you long searching, making them known to you? Are you qualified to judge the Almighty? He is faultless as heaven is high. But who are you? His mind is fathomless. What can you know in comparison? His spirit is broader than the earth and wider than the sea. If he rushes in and makes an arrest and calls the court to order, who's going to stop him? For he knows perfectly all faults and sins of mankind. He sees all sin without searching. Mere man is likely to be as wise as a wild donkey's colt is likely to be born to a man. Before you turn to God and stretch out your hands to him, get rid of your sins and leave all iniquity behind you. Only then, without the spots of sin to defile you, can you walk steadily forward to God without fear. Only then can you forget your misery. It will all be in the past, and your life will be cloudless. Any darkness will be as bright as the morning. You will have courage because you will have hope. You will take your time and rest in safety. You will lay down unafraid, and many will look to you for help. But the wicked shall find no way to escape. Their only hope is death. Job chapter 12, verse 1, Job's reply. Yes, I realize you know everything. All wisdom will die with you. Well, I know a few things myself. You're no better than I am. And who doesn't know these things you've been saying? I, the man who begged God for help and God answered him, have become a laughing stock to my neighbors. Yes, I, a righteous man, am now the man they scoff at. Meanwhile, the rich mock those in trouble and are quick to despise all those in need. For robbers prosper. Go ahead and provoke God. It makes no difference. He will supply your every need anyway. Who doesn't know that the Lord does things like that? Ask the dumbest beast. He knows that it is so. Ask the birds. They will tell you. Or let the earth teach you, or the fish of the sea. For the soul of every living thing is in the hand of God, and the breath of all mankind. Just as my mouth can taste good food, so my mind tastes truth when I hear it. As you say, older men like me are wise. They understand, but true wisdom and power are God's. He knows alone what we should do. He understands. And how great is his might? What he destroys can't be rebuilt. When he closes in on a man, there is no escape. He withholds the rain and the earth becomes a desert. He sends the storms and the floods the ground. Yes, with him is strength and wisdom. Deceivers and deceived are both his slaves. He makes fools of counselors and judges. He reduces kings to slaves and frees their servants. Priests are led away as slaves. He overthrows the mighty. He takes away the voice of orators and the insight of the elders. He pours contempt upon princes and weakens the strong. He floods the darkness with light, even the dark shadow of death. He raises up a nation, then destroys it. He makes it great and then reduces it to nothing. He takes away the understanding of presidents and kings and leaves them wandering, lost and groping without a guiding light. Job chapter 13. Look, I have seen many instances such as you describe. I understand what you're saying. I know as much as you do. I'm not stupid. Oh, how long to speak directly to the Almighty. I want to talk this over with God himself. For you are misinterpreting the whole thing. You are doctors who don't know what they're doing. Oh, please be quiet. That would be your highest wisdom. Listen to me now, to my reasons for what I think and to my pleadings. Must you go on speaking for God when he never once said the things that you are putting in his mouth? Does God want your help if you're going to twist the truth for him? Be careful that he doesn't find out what you're doing. Or do you think you can fool God as well as men? No, you will be in serious trouble with him if you use lies to try to help him out. Doesn't his majesty strike terror to your heart? How can you do this thing? These tremendous statements you have made have about as much value as ashes. Your defense of God is as fragile as a clay vase. Be silent now and leave me alone that I may speak, and I'm willing to face the consequences. Yes, I will take my life in my hand and say what I really think. God may kill me for saying this. In fact, I expect him to. Nevertheless, I'm going to argue my case with him. This, at least, will be in my favor, that I'm not godless to be rejected instantly from his presence. Listen closely to what I'm about to say. Hear me out. This is my case. I know that I am righteous. Who can argue with me? Oh, Lord. Who can argue with me over this? If you could prove me wrong, I would stop defending myself and die. He said, I know I'm righteous. Oh, God, there are two things I beg you not to do to me. Only then will I be able to face you. Don't abandon me and don't terrify me with your awesome presence. Call me to come. How quickly I will answer. Let me speak to you and you reply. Tell me what I've done wrong. Help me. Point out my sin to me. Why do you turn away from me? Why hand me over to the enemy? Would you blame a leaf that is blown about by the wind? Will you chase dry, useless straws? You write bitter things against me and bring up all the follies of my youth. You send me to prison and shut me in on every side. I'm like a fallen, rotten tree, like a moth-eaten coat. Job chapter 14, verse 1. How frail is man? How few are his days? How frail is man? How his few days are full of trouble. Let me see something here. He blossoms for a moment like a flower and withers as shadows of a passing cloud. Did he just? Yes, I did. As the shadow of a passing cloud, he quickly disappears. Must you be so harsh with frail men and demand and accounting from them? How can you demand purity in one born impure? You have set mankind so brief a span of life. Months is all you give him. Not one bitter longer may he live. So give him a little rest, won't you? Turn away your angry gaze and let him have a few moments of relief before he dies. For there's hope for a tree. If it's cut down, it sprouts again and grows tender new branches. Though its roots have grown old in the earth and its stump decays, it may sprout and bud again at the touch of water like a new seedling. But when a man dies and is buried, where does his spirit go? As water evaporates from a lake, as rivers disappears in drought, so a man lies down for the last time and does not rise up again until the heavens are no more. He shall not awaken nor be roused from his sleep. Oh, that you would hide me with the dead and forget me there until your anger ends. But mark your calendar to think of me again. If a man dies, shall he live again? This thought gives me hope, so that in all my anguish, I eagerly await sweet death. You would call and I would come. You would reward all I do. But now instead you give me so few steps upon the stage of life and notice every mistake I make. You bundle them all together as evidence against me. Mountains wear away and disappear. Water grinds the stones to sand. Torrents tear away the soil. So every hope of man is worn away. Always you are against him. Then he passes off the scene. You make him old and wrinkled and send him away. He never knows if his sons are honored or they may fail or face disaster, but he knows it not. For him there is only sorrow and pain. Job chapter 15, verse 1, the answer of Eliphaz the Temanite. You are supposed to be a wise man, and yet you give all this foolish talk. You're nothing but a windbag. Lord have mercy, you're nothing but a windbag. It isn't right to speak so foolishly. What good do such words do? Have you no fear of God, no reverence for him? Your sins are telling your mouth what to say. Your words are based on clever deception. But why should I condemn you? Your own mouth does. Are you the wisest man alive? Were you born before the hills were made? Have you heard the secret counsel of God? Are you called into his council room? Do you have a monopoly on wisdom? What do you know more than we do? What do you understand that we don't? On our side are aged men much older than your father. Is God's comfort too little for you? Is his gentleness rough? What is this you are doing? Getting carried away by your anger with flashing eyes, and you turn against God and say all these evil things against him. What man in all the earth can be as pure and righteous as you claim to be? Why, God doesn't even trust the angels. Even the heavens can't be absolutely pure compared with him. How much less someone like you who is corrupt and sinful, drinking in sin as a sponge soaks up water. Listen, I will answer you from my own experience, confirmed by the experience of wise men who have told this same thing from their fathers, our ancestors to whom alone the land was given, and they have passed this wisdom to us. A wicked man is always in trouble throughout his life. He is surrounded by terrors, and if there are any good days, they will soon be gone. He dares not go into the darkness lest he be murdered. He wanders around begging for food. He lives in fear, distress, and anguish. His enemies conquer him as a king defeats his foes. Armed with his tin shield, he clenches his fist against God, defying the Almighty, stubbornly assaulting him. This wicked man is fat and rich and has lived and conquered cities after killing off their citizens. But he will not continue to be rich or to extend his possessions. No darkness shall overtake him forever. The breath of God shall destroy him. The flame shall burn up all he has. Let him no longer trust in foolish riches. Let him no longer deceive himself. For the money he trusts in will be his only reward before he dies. All this futility will become evident to him. For all he counted on will disappear and fall to the ground like a withered grape. How little will come out of his hopes. For the godless are barren. They can produce nothing truly good. God's fire consumes them with all their possessions. The only thing they can conceive is sin, and their hearts give birth only to wickedness. Job chapter 16, Job's reply. I've heard all this before. What miserable comforters all of you. Won't you ever stop your flow of foolish words? What have I said that makes you speak so endlessly? But perhaps I'd sermonize the same as you. If you were I and I were you, would you spout off criticisms against you and shake my head at you? But no, I would speak in such a way that would help you. I would try to take away your grief. But now my grief remains no matter how I defend myself, nor does it help if I refuse to speak. For God has ground me down and taken away my family. Oh, God, you've turned me to skin and bones as a proof, they say, of my sins. God hates me and angrily tears at my flesh. He has gnashed upon me with his teeth and watched to snuff out any sign of life. These comforters have gaping jaws to swallow me. They slap my cheek. My enemies gathered together against me, and God has delivered me over to sinners, into the hands of the wicked. I was living quietly until he broke me apart. He has taken me by the neck and dashed me to pieces, then hung me up as his target. His archers surround me, letting fly their arrows so that the ground is wet with my blood. Again and again he attacks me, running upon me like a giant. Here I sit in sackcloth and have laid all my hope in the dust. My eyes are red with weeping, and on my eyelids is a shout of death. Yet I'm innocent, and my prayer is pure. O earth, do not conceal my blood. Let it protest on my behalf. Yet even now the witness to my innocence is there in heaven, and my advocate is there on high. My friends scoff at me, but I pour out my tears to God, pleading that he will listen as a man would listen to his neighbor. For all too soon I must go down that road from which I shall never return. Job chapter 17. I'm sick and near death. The grave is ready to receive me. I'm surrounded by mockers. I see them everywhere. Will no one anywhere confirm my innocence? But you, O God, have kept them back from understanding this. Oh, do not let them triumph. If they accept bribes to denounce their friends, their children shall go blind. He has made me a mockery among the people. They spit in my face. My eyes are dim with weeping, and I'm but a shadow of my former self. Fair-minded men are astonished when they see me. Yet finally the innocent shall come out on top, above the godless. The righteous shall move forward, onward and forward. Those with pure hearts will become stronger and stronger. As for you, all of you, please go away, for I do not find a wise man among you. My good days are in the past. My hopes have disappeared. My heart's desires are broken. They say that night is day and day is night. How they pervert the truth. If I die, I go out into darkness and call the grave my father, and the worm my mother and my sister. Where then is my hope? Can anyone find any? No, my hope will go down with me to the grave. We shall rest together in the dust. Job chapter 18, verse 1. The further reply of Bildad the Shuhite. Who are you trying to fool? Speak some sense if you want us to answer. Have we become like animals to you, stupid and dumb? Just because you tear your clothes in anger, is this going to start an earthquake? Shall we all go and hide? The truth remains that if you do not prosper, it is because you are wicked, and your bright flame shall be put out. There will be darkness in every home where there is wickedness. The confident stride of the wicked man will be shortened. He will realize his failing strength. He walks in traps, and robbers will ambush him. There is a booby trap in every path he takes. He has a good cause for fear. His enemy is close behind him. His vigor is depleted by hunger. Calamity stands ready to pounce upon him. His skin is eaten by disease. Death shall devour him. The wealth he trusted in shall reject him, and he shall be brought down to the king of terrors. His home shall disappear beneath the fiery barrage of brimstone. He shall die from the roots up, and all his branches will be lopped off. All his memory of existence will perish from the earth, and no one will remember him. He will be driven out from the kingdom of light into darkness and chased out of the world. He will have neither son nor grandson left, nor any other relatives. Old and young alike will be horrified by his fate. Yes, this is what happens to sinners, to those rejecting God. Job chapter 19, verse 1, the reply of Job. How long are you going to trouble me and try to break me with your words? 10 times now have I declared I am a sinner. Why aren't you ashamed to deal with me so harshly? 10 times now you have declared I am a sinner. Why aren't you ashamed to deal with me so harshly? And if I indeed was wrong, you have yet to prove it. You think yourself so great, then prove my guilt. The fact of the matter is that God has overthrown me and caught me in his net. I scream for help and no one hears me. I shriek but get no justice. God has blocked my path and turned my light to darkness. He has stripped me of my glory and removed the crown from my head. He has broken down on every side. I am done. He has destroyed all hope. His fury burns against me. He counts me as an enemy. He sends his troops to surround my tent. He has sent away my brothers and friends. My relatives have failed me. My friends have all forsaken me. Those living in my home, even my servants, regard me as a stranger. I'm like a foreigner to them. I call my servant, but he doesn't come. I even beg him. My own wife and brothers refuse to recognize me. Even young children despise me. When I stand to speak, they mock. My best friends abhor me. Those I loved have turned against me. I'm skin and bones and have escaped death by the skin of my teeth. Oh, my friends, pity me, for the angry hand of God has touched me. Why must you persecute me as God does? Why aren't you satisfied with my anguish? Oh, that I could write my plea with an iron pen in the rock forever. But as for me, I know that my Redeemer lives, and he will stand upon the earth at last. And I know that after this body has decayed, this body shall see God. Then he will be on my side. Yes, I will see him, not as a stranger, but as a friend. What a glorious hope. How dare you go on persecuting me as though I were proven guilty? I warn you yourselves, you are in danger of punishment for your attitude. Job chapter 20, the speech of Zophar the Naamathite. I hasten to reply, for I have an answer for you. You've tried to make me feel ashamed myself for calling you a sinner, but my spirit won't let me stop. Jesus. Don't you realize that ever since man was first placed upon the earth, the triumph of the wicked has been short-lived and the joy of the godless but for a moment? Though the godless be proud as the heavens and walk with his nose in the air, yet he shall perish forever, cast away like his own dung. Those who knew him will wonder where he's gone. He will fade like a dream. Neither his friends nor his family will ever see him again. His children shall beg from the poor. Their hard labor shall repay his debts. Though still a young man, his bones shall lie in the dust. He enjoyed the taste of his wickedness, letting it melt in his mouth, sipping it slowly, lest it disappear. But suddenly the food he has eaten turns sour within him. He will vomit the plunder he gorged. He will vomit the plunder he gorged. God won't let him keep it down. It is like poison and death to him. He will not enjoy the goods he stole. They will not be butter and honey to him after all. His labor shall not be rewarded. Wealth will give him no joy, for he has oppressed the poor and foreclosed their homes. He will never recover. Though he is always greedy, now he has nothing. Of all the things he dreamed of, none remain, because he stole at every opportunity. His prosperity shall not continue. He shall run into trouble at the peak of his powers. All the wicked shall destroy him. Just as he is about to fill his belly, God will rain down wrath upon him. He will be chased and struck down. The arrow is pulled from his body, and the glittering point comes out from his gall. The terrors of death are upon him. His treasures will be lost in deepest darkness. A raging fire will devour his goods, consuming all that he has left. The heavens will reveal his sins, and the earth will give testimony against him. His wealth will disappear beneath the wrath of God. This is what awaits the wicked man, for God prepares it for him. Job chapter 21, verse 1, Job's reply. Listen to me, let me speak and afterwards mock on. I'm complaining about God, not man. No wonder my spirit is so troubled. Look at me in horror and lay your hand upon your mouth. Even I am frightened when I see myself. Horror takes hold on me and I shudder. The truth is that the wicked live on to a good old age and become great and powerful. They live to see their children grow to maturity around them and their grandchildren too. Their homes are safe from every fear and God does not punish them. Their cattle are productive. They have many happy children. They spend their time singing and dancing. They are wealthy and need deny themselves nothing. They are prosperous to the end. All this despite the fact that they ordered God away and wanted no part of him and his ways. Who is Almighty God? They scoff. Why would we obey him? What good will it do us? Look, everything the wicked touch has turned to gold. But I refuse even to deal with people like that. Yet the wicked get away with it every time. They never have any trouble, and God skips them when he distributes his sorrows and anger. Are they driven before the wind like straw? Are they carried away by the storm? Not at all. Well, you say at least God will punish their children. But I say that God should punish the man who sins, not his children. Let him feel the penalty himself. Yes, let him be destroyed for his iniquity. Let him drink deeply of the anger of the Almighty. For when is he dead? For when he is dead, then he will never again be able to enjoy his family. But who can rebuke God, the supreme judge? He destroys those who are healthy, wealthy, fat, and prosperous. God also destroys those in deep and grinding poverty who have never known anything good, but alike are buried in the same dust, both eaten by the same worms. I know what you're going to say. You're going to tell me of the rich and the wicked man who came to disaster because of their sins. But I reply, ask anyone who's been around and he can tell you the truth, that the evil man is usually spared in the day of calamity and allowed to escape. No one rebukes him openly. No one repays him for what he has done. And an honor guard keeps watch at his grave. A great funeral procession precedes and follows him as the soft earth covers him. How can you comfort me when your whole premise is so wrong? Job chapter 22, verse 1. Another address from Eliphaz. Is mere man any worth to God? Even the wisest is of value only to himself. Is it any pleasure to the Almighty if you are righteous? Would it be any gain to him if you were perfect? It is because you are good that he is punishing you, not at all. It's all because of your wickedness. Your sins are endless. For instance, you must have refused to loan money to needy friends unless they gave you all their clothing as a pledge. Yes, you must have stripped them to the bone. You must have refused water to the thirsty and bread to the starving. But no doubt you gave men of importance anything they wanted and let the wealthy live wherever they chose. You sent widows away without helping them and broke the arms of orphans. That is why you're now surrounded by traps and sudden fears and darkness and waves of horror. God is so great, higher than the heavens, higher than the stars. But you reply, that is why he can't see what I'm doing. How can he judge through the thick darkness? For thick clouds swirl about him so that he cannot see us. He's way up there, walking on the vault of heaven. Don't you realize that those treading the ancient paths of sin snatched away in youth and the foundation of their lives washed out forever? For they said to God, go away, God. What can you do for us? God forbid that I should say a thing like that. Yet they forget that he had filled their homes with good things. And now the righteous shall see them destroyed. The innocent shall laugh, the wicked to scorn. See, they will say, the last of our enemies has been destroyed in the fire. Quit quarreling with God. Agree with him and you will have peace at last. His favor will surround you if you only admit that you are wrong. Listen to the instructions and store them in your heart. If you return to God and put right all the wrong in your home, then you will be restored. If you give up your lust for money and throw away your gold, then the Almighty himself shall be your treasure. He will be your precious silver. Then you will delight yourself in the Lord and look up to God. You will pray to him and he will hear you. You will fulfill all your promises to him. Whatever you wish will happen, and the light of heaven will shine upon the road ahead of you. If you are attacked and knocked down, you will know that there is someone who will lift you up again. Yes, he will save the humble and help even sinners by your pure hands. Job chapter 23, verse 1, the reply of Job. My complaint today is still a bitter one, and my punishment far more severe than my fault deserves. Oh, that I knew where to find God, that I could go to his throne and talk with him there. I would tell him all about my side of the argument and listen to his reply and understand what he wants. Would he merely overpower me with his greatness? No, he would listen with sympathy. Fair and honest men could reason with him and be acquitted by my judge. But I search in vain. I seek him here, I seek him there, and I cannot find him. I seek him in his workshop in the north, but cannot find him there. Workshop in the north? He's not Santa Claus. I seek him in his workshop in the north, but cannot find him there, nor can I find him in the south. There too he hides himself. But he knows every detail of what's happening to me, and when he has examined me, he will pronounce me completely innocent, as pure as solid gold. I have stayed in God's paths, followed his steps. I have not turned aside. I have not refused his commandments, but have enjoyed them more than my daily food. Nevertheless, his mind concerning me remains unchanged, and who can turn him from his purposes? Whatever he wants to do, he does, and so he will do to me as he planned, and there's no more ahead. There's more ahead. No wonder I'm so terrified at his presence. When I think of it, terror grips me. God has given me a fainting heart. He, the Almighty, has terrified me with darkness all around me. Thick, impenetrable darkness everywhere. All right, tongue twister. Job chapter 24, verse 1. Why doesn't God open the court and listen to my case? Why must the godly wait for him in vain? For a crime wave has engulfed us. Landmarks are moved. Flocks of sheep are stolen. And even the donkeys of the poor and fatherless are taken. Poor widows must surrender the little that they have as a pledge to get a loan. The needy are kicked aside. They must get out of the way, like the wild donkeys in the desert. The poor must spend all their time just getting barely enough to keep soul and body together. They're sent into the desert to search for food for their children. They eat what they want. They eat what they find that grows wild, and must even glean the vineyards of the wicked. All night they lay naked in the cold without clothing or covering. They are wet with showers of the mountains and live in the caves for want of a home. The wicked snatch away the fatherless children from their mother's breasts. Take a poor man's baby as a pledge before they will loan him any money or grain. That is why we must go about naked without clothing and are forced to carry food while they are starving. They are forced to press out the olive oil without tasting it and to tread out the grape juice as they suffer from thirst. The bones of the dying cry from the city. The wounded cry for help. Yet God does not respond to their moaning. The wicked rebel against the light and are not acquainted with the right and the good. They are murderers who rise in the early dawn to kill the poor and needy. At night they are thieves and adulterers, waiting for the twilight when no one will see me, they say. They mask their faces so no one will know them. They break into houses at night and sleep in the daytime. They're not acquitted with the light. The black night is their morning. They ally themselves with terror and darkness. But how quickly they disappear from the face of the earth. Everything they own is cursed. They leave no property for their children. Death consumes sinners as drought, and heat consumes snow. Even the sinner's own mother shall forget him. Worms shall feed sweetly on him. No one will remember him anymore. For wicked men are broken like a tree in the storm. They have taken advantage of the childless who have no protecting sons. They refuse to help the needy widows. Yet sometimes it seems as though God preserves the rich by his power and restores them to life when anyone else would die. God gives them confidence and strength and helps them in many ways. But though they are great now, yet in a moment they shall be gone like all others, cut off like heads of grain. Can anyone claim otherwise? Who can prove me a liar and claim that I am wrong? Job chapter 25, verse 1, the further reply of Bildad the Shuhite. God is powerful and dreadful. He enforces peace in heaven. Who is able to number his hosts of angels? And his light shines down on all the earth. How can a mere man stand before God and claim to be righteous? Who in all the earth can boast that he is clean? God is so glorious that even the moon and stars are less than nothing as compared to him. How much less is man? But who is but a worm in his sight? Job chapter 26, verse 1, Job's reply. What wonderful helpers you all are, and how you have encouraged me in my great need, how you've enlightened my stupidity, what wise things you have said. How did you ever think of all these brilliant comments? The dead stand naked, trembling before God in the place where they go. God stretches out heaven over empty space and hangs the earth upon nothing. He wraps the rain in his thick clouds, and the clouds are not split by the weight. He shrouds his throne with clouds. He sets a boundary for the ocean, yes, and a boundary for the day and for the night. The pillars of the heaven tremble at his rebuke, and by his power the sea grows calm. He is skilled at crushing its pride. The heavens are made beautiful by his spirit. He pierces the swiftly gliding serpent. These are some of the minor things he does, merely a whisper of his power. Who can withstand his thunder? Job chapter 27, verse 1, Job's final defense. I vow by the living God who has taken away my rights, even the Almighty God who has embittered my soul, that as long as I live, while I have breath from my God, my lips shall speak no evil, my tongue shall speak no lies. I will never agree that you are right. Until I die, I will vow my innocence. I am not a sinner. I repeat it again and again. My conscience is clear for as long as I live. Those who declare otherwise are my wicked enemies. They are evil men. But what hope has the godless when God cuts him off and takes away his life? Will God listen to his cry when trouble comes upon him? For he does not delight himself in the Almighty or pay attention to God except in times of crisis. I will teach you about God, but really I don't need to, for you yourselves know as much as about him as I do. Yet you're simply saying all these useless things to me. This is the fate awaiting the wicked from the hand of the Almighty. If he has a multitude of children, it is so that they will die in war or starve to death. Those who survive shall be brought down to the grave by disease and plague, with no one to mourn them, not even their wives. The evil man may accumulate money like dust, with closets jammed full of clothing. Yes, he may order them made by his tailor, but the innocent shall wear that clothing and shall divide his silver among them. Every house built by the wicked is as fragile as a spider's web, as full as cracks as a leafy booth. He goes to bed rich, but wakes up to find that all his wealth is gone. Terror overwhelms him, and he is blown away in the storms of the night. The east wind carries him away, and he is gone. It sweeps him into eternity. For God shall hurl at him unsparingly. He longs to flee from God. Everyone will cheer at his death and boo him into eternity. Wow. Job chapter 28, verse 1. Men know how to mine silver and refine gold, to dig iron from the earth and melt copper from stone. Men know how to put light into darkness, so that a mine shaft can be sunk into the earth, and the earth searched and its deep secrets explored. Into the black rock shouted by death. Men descend on ropes swinging back and forth. Men know how to obtain food from the surface of the earth, while underneath there is fire. They know how to find sapphires and gold dust, treasures that no bird of prey can see, no eagle's eye observe. They are deep within the mines. No wild animal has ever walked upon those treasures. No lion has set his paw there. Men know how to tear apart flinty rocks and how to overturn the roots of mountains. They drill tunnels into the rocks and lay bare precious stones. They dam up streams of water and pan the gold. But though men can do all these things, they don't know where to find wisdom and understanding. They not only don't know how to get it, but in fact, it is not to be found among the living. It's not here, the oceans say, and the seas reply, nor is it there. It cannot be bought for gold or silver, nor for all the gold of Ophir or precious onyx stones or sapphires. Wisdom is far more valuable than gold and glass. It cannot be bought for jewels mounted in fine gold. Coral or crystal is worthless in trying to get it. Its price is far above rubies. Topaz from Ethiopia cannot purchase it, nor even the purest gold. Then where can we get it? Where can it be found? For it is hid from the eyes of all mankind. Even the sharp-eyed birds in the sky cannot discover it. But destruction and death speak of knowing something about it, and God knows where it is found, for he looks throughout the whole earth under all the heavens. He makes the winds blow and set the boundaries of the oceans. He makes the laws of the rain and the path for the lightning. He knows where wisdom is and declares it to all who will listen. He established it and examined it thoroughly. And this is what he says to all mankind. Look, to fear the Lord is true wisdom. To forsake evil is real understanding. The book of Job, chapter 29, verse 1. Job continues. Oh, for the years gone by when God took care of me, when he lighted the way before me and I walked safely through the darkness. Yes, in my early years when the friendship of God was felt in my home, when the Almighty was still with me and my children were around me, when my projects prospered and even the rock poured out streams of olive oil to me. Those were the days when I went out to the city gate and took my place among the honored elders. The young saw me and stepped aside. Even the aged arose and stood up and respected my coming. The princes stood in silence and laid their hands upon their mouths. The highest officials of the city stood in quietness. All rejoiced in what I said. All who saw me spoke well of me. For I, as an honest judge, helped the poor in their need and the fatherless who had no one to help them. I helped those who were ready to perish, and they blessed me. And I caused the widows' hearts to sing for joy. All I did was just and honest, for righteousness was my clothing. I served as eyes for the blind and feet for the lame. I was as a father to the poor and saw to it that even strangers received a fair trial. I knocked out the fangs of the godless oppressors and made them drop their victims. Okay. I thought, surely I shall die quietly in my nest after a long good life. For everything I did prospered. The dew lay all night upon my fields and watered them. Fresh honors were constantly given me, and my abilities were constantly refreshed and renewed. Everyone listened to me and valued my advice, and I was silent until I spoke. And after I spoke, they spoke no more, for my counsel satisfied them. They longed for me to speak as those in drought time long for rain. They waited eagerly with open mouths. When they were discouraged, I smiled, and that encouraged them, and I lightened their spirits. I told them what they should do and corrected them as their chief, or as a king instructs his army, and as one who comforts those who mourn. This is the word of the Lord.